welcome back. You know, just before we went to break, we were talking about the fact that too many people will go and try to find somebody who's going to tell them what they want to hear, not the actual truth. And, well, Geoff Koepp joins us, who started his career as a project planner and really brings that project management style to his financial planning practice. He's also the owner and founder of Atlas Financial and myatlasplanner.com. Welcome back, Geoff.
Hey, Ben. Nice to be back.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
How are
nice sunny day, kind of.
Hey, that's sunny.
Yeah, we'll take it.
That's sunny enough, I tell you. So, Geoff, you know, you've been in the financial planning industry for a long time.
Right.
You've done a lot with clients. I've seen a lot of your work. People don't always know what they need. They don't know what they're going to need. Sometimes they're just, again, it's that head in the sand mentality. I don't even want to know what I'm going to need.
Again, my favorite episode of South Park is the one where everybody buries their head in the sand because they don't want to deal with the issue of Muslim, you know. Anyway, it's funny episode. If you ever get a chance to watch it. But I think that, you know, there's a lot of that. I mean, in fact, in this article that was in Sunday's Seattle Times about a financial roadmap for a family, they talk about they were blissfully unaware. And that's the way a lot of people approach a lot of their finances. They do some of the stuff. They kind of hear something like, I should put 10% away or whatever, some magic number they heard somewhere along the way. Or even in this article, you know, they went on an online calculator and they saw, I need $2 million. And it's like, okay, but it's like just straight numbers. And it has nothing to do with you and your lifestyle and what you want to do and what your retirement's going to look like and where you're going to be when you get there. And so that's really been the big thing about financial planning is, like you were talking about a second ago with Ryan, was it is a relationship business. More so than anything, it's a quality relationship's going to contribute to smarter decisions and better decisions more frequently. So
well, even knowing what your options are, I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. You get somebody blissfully unaware. Blissfully unaware. Yeah. And this article by Chris Winters in the Seattle Times, you know, it just talks about entering a new stage of life. And all of a sudden, as we mentioned, you know, you have this long-term plan or long-term relationship with somebody. And then at least, you know, you got to have somewhere to turn.
And that's usually when people actually have a point at which they need to make a decision. They start to seek out help is when they have these things change in their lives. So, and that's why in this article, that was one of the most important things he says, financial plans done correctly are a relationship business. You know, it really has a lot to do with you staying in a relationship and making somebody who knows you, somebody who can understand you, who will take the time to look at what you're up to, and those kind of things really make a big difference in the decisions and the choices and the investments and the, you know, do you sell or do you get out or do you buy or, you know, all those kind of things, because they'll understand you and what you're really trying to accomplish rather than as just a transaction. You know, it used to be very transactional. We used to do a lot of stuff very transactionally. We still do.
That was like the original stockbroker. I mean, it was, I mean, right?
Yes, exactly. And so it's like, oh, you need an investment. Here's an investment. Rather than like, what are you trying to do? You know, it's like, why are you here? What are you trying to accomplish? You know, what are you hoping to get out of this investment? You know, and so it becomes a much more about knowing somebody in this business than it used to be.
And then, you know, and we talked about tapping into that network because now, you know, I mean, for a lot of people who are maybe going into retirement, they're 55, 58, 62, whatever. They're kind of entering that last maybe earning years. And now you have to make a lot of decisions. Right? I mean, are you going to make it to your retirement?
Well, in this example, their kids are about out of college. So it becomes really important to them. They're like, we've done everything we needed to do. We kind of have survived this whole thing. We're not in a bad spot, but whoa, $2 million. How am I going to get that? Right. So it scared them. And it scares a lot of people when they do some calculator like that to try to figure out what they need. And I think that all the time it's going to be somebody spending time with you to figure out like, hey, you know, maybe there's a lot of things you don't have to spend your money on. I mean, in this case, I noticed that a lot of people make different decisions after having met with me. You know, they'll make a lot of different decisions after they've figured out what it is that they're trying to accomplish and they know where they're going and how much money they need and all of those kind of things. They start going, like in this example, they spend $188 on a nice dinner for everybody. And it's like, okay, well, would we have just done that at home if we knew we could have saved
$188 for 4 people? That's not even. That's
yeah, it's like that was a good time.
Like,
I love it, but
that's not even. That's like that's not a big nice dinner even.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
So they were celebrating some milestone at that point, but I think it does come back to people will do things again in that absence of a real decision or some goal or where they're trying to get. They'll actually make decisions that don't help them at all in accomplishing those goals that are really important to them. If they'd known that, that $100 maybe they could have shaved off of that and cooked at home and had your own wine bottle at home or whatever it was, right? And then put that $100 away for that month, that all adds up in the end, and it really makes a difference. And I think that comes back to your lifestyle too when you're retiring. What are you going to live like? How is that going to look like? Because if you're going to live like a king now, you're probably going to try to live that way in retirement. So you might start going, oh, well, and I'm seeing that a lot too, even with a lot of financial decisions people are making right now. They're spending at such a high level of their income, and they're not really saying, well, yeah, you could buy a house that much, but maybe you shouldn't. And you put some of that away so you could retire and live comfortably and have your house paid off when you get there and all those kind of things. And so there's so much spending that happens unaware for people that it really makes a difference if they have a plan. And I hear that time and again.
Well, and in this case, I mean, this gal actually went out and got started having to go back to work for this plan to work. And I mean, that is something I think it would take a relationship with anybody to be like, and by the way, you have to go back to work.
Yeah, and so much of it is also like...
Because the husband wasn't going to say it.
He's so glad that
he's like,
guy's...
oh, I'm so... Yeah.
Oh, finally.
Yeah.
I think that's so much. I hear that all the time, though, is people saying, I wish I'd done this sooner. They don't like the fact that even in this article, she says, I'm more concerned now than I was before I met with them. But in the sense that she's now concerned, she actually is aware of what she's spending and where her money's going. And all those things make a big difference, that make big profitable differences in your retirement plan. And so being blissfully unaware is nice, but it's not necessarily a place you want to continue to live. So.
Well, not if you actually have goals.
No,
I mean, that's like,
and everybody does. They're just not actually consciously bringing them to the forefront and measuring them. And that makes a big difference in giving them that feedback.
So when people start to look, at a financial advisor, you guys can be, I think, similar to a quarterback, the way that a real estate agent can be a quarterback. And I know you're a football guy, so that's why
it works.
I'm good to use that. But, similar to the way a real estate agent can be a quarterback in a real estate transaction, in that, look, there's tax things you need to take care of. You need to go talk to an accountant. There's you don't have a will, or you don't have these things in play. You need to go do this. So, or in a mortgage situation, and it's you got to have that somebody you trust to be the quarterback. Yeah,
there's so many connections that as a financial person you run into. We're out there talking to people all the time. We're working with realtors, mortgage people, CPAs, enrolled agents, all sorts of IRS people. So there's a lot of information that we run across and a lot of good resources that we run across. And for me, that actually is one of the most important roles that I play, is actually connecting people with the right person to help them get through this situation. So,
do you find that people come to you then for advice outside of just investments pretty consistently once you have that relationship established?
Yeah, all the time. Actually, there's not... I can't think of a situation where a client hasn't had something else that they were looking for and needed some advice to find a good resource. It could be something like, buying a car or finding a car broker. I mean, those are all nice things to have. You're going to buy a car at some point. So I try to keep a list of people like that. Or even long-term care has become a big issue. Finding the right options and who can help me, guide me through this, or help me with my mom and dealing with those situations. Those are all things that come up all the time. And it's a great thing about this job is I get to see people from getting started to, how do I end it? And, right. And so I get this whole, like, getting people through the hump and helping them see over the hill. A lot of times it's, too much. And I just try to help them see what they need to see right now to make the decisions that they need to make so that they can get over the hill and not be so worried about the hill a lot of times. So.
And over the hill, probably not 40 years old anymore.
Yeah,
right?
No, yeah, please.
Well, again, we're here with Geoff Koepp, owner of Atlas Financial and myatlasplanner.com. Geoff, we just have about a minute left before we have to go to break. But when you start talking about people who, their first step, they go talk to somebody in the financial planning industry, is that the biggest hurdle people have to get over? I mean, if people are out there listening, other than maybe they, changing their lifestyle, but at least knowing what they don't know, discovering certain things about their financial life, do you think that's one of the hardest steps people have?
Seeking help is always the hardest step. When you actually, it's kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous, admitting you have a problem is probably the first step. And knowing that you don't know the answers to how to get through it is always going to be something that people have, that has to come from their life experience. And they're just some people will themselves through life and they'll just figure it out. But there's so many resources out there, and the world of finance has changed so much. I can think of just in the last couple of years how many products have changed. We talked about this a little bit before the show, that the whole financial industry has changed quite a bit in the gearing of products for retirees and trying just income and dealing with all of those things. The whole world of investments has quite changed a lot, and their focus has changed a lot. And just having somebody who's daily seeing this and being involved in it and being educated in it, all those things being brought to bear for a financial person. Most people think they can figure it out. There's a ton of financial stuff out there, and it's hard to muddle through it. Just like you were talking about with the news, there's so much out there that it's overwhelming for people to figure out where to start. And I think you just have to find a relationship, find somebody that you like, and get started. And the great thing is, if you find somebody you're working with them and you don't like them, at some point, it's like at least you're started. You've moved the ball. You're starting to get it rolling. Go find somebody else that if you happen to find somebody you really, really like, then move and work with that person. But get started. I mean, that's going to be the biggest hump for a lot of people.
Well, and I like what you talked about as far as the seeking help, because I think so many people do it anonymously. They go online and they find whatever information they want, and then they're done because they're not exposed.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you can be helped effectively by a professional if you don't expose yourself a little bit.
Right.
It's people who want to come get a mortgage, not really tell you everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest things for me to help somebody in a financial situation when they don't want to share their information. And in the end, I end up knowing probably more about their financial situation than they do and understanding it from more angles than they do because I have to in order to help them make the proper decisions. And I think that that's the best place to start, is find a good person that you can have a relationship with, that you like, that you're comfortable with, that you can spend a lot of time with, that will, help you make these decisions over time. Because like you said earlier too, the decisions don't stop coming. They come all the time. And whether it's inflation or government spending or whatever,
or buying a car, whatever it is, it's
all of those things are all affecting us all the time. And having somebody who can help you make sense of it is just where you got to be. So.
Yeah. I mean, even as this article said in the Seattle Times, going to dinner for $188. I mean, that stuff, it all
adds up
and makes a difference.
Yeah.
Well, Geoff, thanks so much for joining us. Again, that's Geoff Koepp, owner and founder of Atlas Financial and myatlasplanner.com. When we come back, Dave Duncan is going to join us in one of those big decisions that's always coming up, especially when you talk to real estate agents like I do all the time, is should people be buying a house? We're going to talk about why right now might be the perfect time. We'll be right back after this break. Dave Duncan's coming up.